And besides the ones we mentioned in the previous page, we also need to introduce another memory space. It's called virtual memory. From the word, it seems it is a memory, however, it is virtual. In the real world, actually, the virtual memory is not a memory. It's actually a space in the hard drive. I'm not sure if you have ever installed this like operating system, like Ubuntu, right? If you have, it's a Linux operating system. When you install this Ubuntu, then you probably need to allocate a space for the virtual memory by yourself. I mean, by your hand. You can decide how much space you can have in a hard drive as a virtual memory. You can decide by yourself. I mean, you can allocate a space by yourself to as a virtual memory in your machine. Right? So virtual memory is not really a physical memory. It is not a level of the memory hierarchical. Actually, it is a technical that gives a program the idea that it has working memory, even if it is actually physically in some like a disk or hard drives. So the operating system will manage the virtual memory. Normally, if you have some data which can exceed the size for the memory you have, then you can allocate a larger virtual memory for your machine. And your machine can store the data in the virtual memory first, and the system knows the data will be used in the near future. Then it can be loaded to the main memory. In other words, the operating system can preload some data from the hard drive to this virtual memory, and then this kinds of data can be loaded to the main memory in some larger blocks. Right? This virtual memory can be very helpful. It may make some programming large applications much easier and also efficient. Uses real-world physical memories. So it is not one part of the hierarchical we showed before. It's one space inside the hard drive. However, this can be used for assist the memory to make it run much faster actually. Okay, let's come back to the DBMS. And DBMS works on the storage space we have in a computer or in a machine, right? Normally, the DBMS assumes that the primary storage location of the database is on a non-volatile disk. It allows the DBMS to manage a database that exceeds the amount of memory available. So normally, when we have a DBMS, the data we store in them can be in several gigabytes, even in terabytes, even larger. It is definitely larger than the memory space we have available. So it is actually on some hard drive or some other disks, right? And DBMS, these components will manage the movement of data between non-volatile and volatile storage. If you know, right, when we do some editing of the data, we have to load the data to the memory so the machine can edit this data, right? And then we can write back this kind of data to the disk again. And this reading and writing to a disk can be very expensive. I'm not sure if you have any experiences in dealing with large size data sets, right? Because I'm working on AI and machine learning and data mining, I need to deal with large size data sets very often. And when we are doing our experiments, we have to work on some large data sets. Normally, I like to store data in a file, actually, on the hard drive. When we run the models, we have to load the data to the memory, so the model can run on the data, right? In most of the cases, the data we have will exceed the size of the memory I have in the machines or in the servers. So for my server, the storage space for the memory is about 256 gigabytes. It's large compared with regular machines. However, it can still be much smaller when we run the models, because normally we need to represent it as a matrix. And do the matrix operation, they can be very expensive. And they also need to require lots of space to be used to store some temporary data we have for the matrix operations. So I have some experiences on this. I know that data reading and writing to this can be very expensive, especially when your data is large. Also, the DBMS maybe need to store the database on one or more than one files on the disk, because the file size is also limited. If the data we have for one table is larger than the file size, then we probably need to store it into multiple files instead. Alright, so you can see the DBMS is actually closely correlated with the storage space we have in the computers and in the machines. To understand how DBMS works, we need to have a deep understanding about how the data storage space and the devices works inside computers.